Hey, this is Raymond from RPAD TV. You are watching RPAD TV 3000. It is a glorious, I think it's a Wednesday. It sounds like a Wednesday. I have a very special episode today. I'm very excited for the Ahsoka TV series coming to Disney Plus. But to get the most out of it, I wanted to talk to the foremost Star Wars expert that I know. And I know many, but I don't know if any compare to this guy. In addition to being a Star Wars genius, and I say that totally literally, he is also my favorite playwright. Say hello, everyone, to Matthew Freeman.
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. How are you doing?
Great. I'm doing all right. I'm up here in my little mountain house in upstate New York. Sorry for this weird light here,
No.
but I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm glad to talk to you, man.
Yeah. It's been a while, but I feel like you're a part of my life every week with your outstanding Substack. So.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I really enjoy writing it. It's a lot of fun. It lets me kind of let loose about the thing I love best. So it's fun.
So you're in upstate New York right now?
Yeah, we're in Sullivan County, which is sort of the foot of the Catskills. Uh,
Ah,
yeah, so sort of. So I live in Brooklyn, but
yeah.
my wife and I bought a little place about just coming up on 2 years ago, out of town. So it's been nice. We're kind of putting art on the walls and putting books in places and stuff. It's
That's
great.
awesome.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
your getaway from the city whenever you need it.
exactly. Yeah. Everybody needs one.
So before we get into Ahsoka, I wanted to ask you, since you're part of the arts community in New York, how has the actors and writers strike affected the vibe down there?
I mean, I'm not in the WGA, but I have lots of friends who are Dramatists Guild. I'm a member of, and
Sure.
everybody's very supportive. And I mean, everybody's got a lot of solidarity and a lot of sense of kind of distress and frustration, I think. Um, I have a friend who has been out there on the picket lines a lot, and uh, when SAG sort of joined the picket lines, he said it was sort of great because the actors bring a lot of energy because he's a writer, and so they'll be out there in the sun for hours and hours, and then the actors will show up and they'll suddenly bring tons of energy to the picket line to support the sagging writers. So
Oh,
I think that combination of people is helping longevity.
very
Yeah,
cool. Now,
yeah.
I hope the strike ends soon, for
Yeah,
everyone involved.
for everyone, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really distressing. It's good to see across the society that people are realizing they need to unionize in order to get what they need. You can't just expect wealthy people to give up their things out of benevolence.
Right.
Uh, that's not how it works.
Now, my one not dying wish, that's so horrible.
Oh my God.
It is absolutely
Wow.
not my dying wish, but um, I know you're a pro wrestling fan as well, as I
Mhm.
am. I wish those guys who are classified as independent contractors for
Oh yeah.
reasons beyond my understanding, I
Yeah.
wish those guys would be able to unionize and get the benefits they rightly deserve.
Oh yeah. I mean, they should all be SAG.
Yes,
They're screen actors.
literally,
They're,
yes.
yeah, they're literally screen actors. They're on weekly episodic television with a writer's room. What else are they doing? And they're putting themselves in more physical danger than most actors.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
so they definitely should. They should be SAG, and I think it's just whatever. I don't know a lot about what I'm talking about, but as a wrestling fan, not very involved, I think it's just a legacy of the fact that this is what a monopoly looks like.
Yeah.
And when you have a monopoly based on a company that is, pretty much run by conservatives, unionization is the first thing that's going to go. They
Right.
made a lot of money not having to pay people as much as they were.
That is
Yeah,
true. Now, jumping to the matter at hand, which is
yeah,
the Ahsoka series, on a
yeah.
scale of 1 to 27,000 midichlorians, how excited for you for Ahsoka and why?
Well, I'm extremely excited. 27,000 midichlorians. Yeah. I mean, let's say 24,000. You know what I mean? I'm
Okay.
not as excited as I would be for like a new movie, which won't be coming for years, but I'm really excited. And I'm fascinated by this sort of like jump to live action for this character, especially because
Yeah.
she's such a, I think she's now been around for something like 15 years. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, Clone Wars, I think it just hit a 15 years old or something like that. Maybe it's a little longer, but it's crazy where she's come from, and to see her turn into a character that's standing next to, Luke Skywalker on screen is sort of amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And especially for people that are younger than us, she is a pillar of what they think of as Star Wars, which I think is awesome for Star
Yeah,
Wars being different things to different people.
absolutely. Totally true. Yeah. I mean, I think that they've consistently sort of aimed at what will be Star Wars for the new generation, and when they made Clone Wars and then Rebels, yeah, it was really wise. They've really
Yes,
they built out a whole other version of Star Wars for people. And
absolutely.
Ahsoka's the banner, the really the torchbearer for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a big Rebels fan. I know you think highly of Rebels as well.
Oh yeah.
For a lot of people, they see Ahsoka season 1 as Rebels season 5. Do you agree with that sentiment? Disagree?
I mean, it's hard not to see it that way because I mean, it's sort of a similar project. I mean, they're certainly showing on purpose iconic imagery from Rebels in the trailer.
Right.
From the spaceships to Lothal to just like Sabine's haircut,
Yeah.
to Loth Cats to Ezra. Um,
Sabine's mural from the last episode
and
of
the
Rebels.
mural. I mean, the
Yeah.
mural of them as animated characters. So, um, I wonder. I'm curious how, if the project is to bring all the post Return of the Jedi stuff together as one big project. Uh,
Ah.
if this will be Rebels season 5 plus whatever went on in Mandalorian, whatever's going on in Boba Fett, and whatever they're aiming for. But it certainly feels like a continuation of Rebels for sure. Yeah.
Now, for people that aren't familiar with Rebels, which is probably a larger chunk of Star Wars fans, what do you think
Yeah.
how do you think these new characters like Sabine and Hera that mean so much to people like you and me, but are new for them, how do you think they'll be received?
Yeah. I mean, I think this is a really interesting conundrum with this show in particular, but sort of all the sort of Disney Plus work that's been done, which is like that the films kind of live in, I mean, as much as they're um, interact with all these other stories, the films live all by themselves. If you see nothing but the films make sense, right? You don't need to see anything else to understand the films. To understand, uh, you know, Mandalorian season 3, you have to have watched Boba Fett at least half of it.
Right.
So, right, or so a lot of this stuff is much more treated like lore and characters in a big story than archetype and myth, right? And so, um, I am interested to see how that, whether or not individuals will like easily, jump on to the Ahsoka story, or if they'll feel a little lost. I hope that they'll. I imagine that's been a lot of conversation around the story group, is how to give people an easy jumping off point. Yeah.
And maybe she'll like Star Wars itself, she'll be different things to different people, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I think she has enough content from The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett that she is cool on her own as live
Yeah.
action Ahsoka. And Rosario Dawson
Yeah.
is all kinds of awesome.
Yeah. And she's a super famous actor. And,
Yeah.
there's not there. So she all by herself. And, it only takes a couple of lines to sort of explain what's going on. I mean,
Yeah.
if you say, we were all friends and we haven't seen each other in years and we're looking for this other character that we're missing, I
Right.
mean, that's kind of all you really need. And then people can kind of get up to speed pretty quickly, I imagine.
And then at the same time, people that have been following her adventures for 10 plus years, that know stuff like Ashla and know who Mirai is. They'll get
Yeah,
a whole
exactly.
new layer of this character, which yeah, so I have high hopes.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just in preparation for us talking today. I looked at some of the later episodes of Rebels and season 4, and just like the world between worlds and stuff, and the
Yeah.
way in which they integrate the ghosts of Mortis into the cosmology, and it's a pretty wild sort of cosmology. It's much more complicated than you know, trust in the force. You know,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
there's, what is the owl? Well, the owl is a symbol of the daughter. Well, who's the daughter?
Right.
So there's a lot going on, and I think it feels more like Lord of the Rings or something that have like a lot of language built into it. So I'm really curious. I'm excited, as a longtime fan, to see how Dave Filoni digs deeper into what he's already kind of built out.
Yeah. And for Star Wars, I have such faith in Filoni. I mean, he's entertained us in incredible ways for a very long time, both in animation
Yeah.
and live action. So I'm
Yeah,
super
it's
psyched.
gonna be amazing. Yeah, and I mean, the I'm loving just the look. I mean, it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and the fact that, they're picking up sort of character tropes, like how she uses her lightsabers are all very true to how she's been animated. And I love the idea
Yeah.
that back when we were younger, if they moved something animated to live action, they would almost apologize for it having been animated and make a live action thing that was its own thing. That was what they used to do, right? It was separate. It was like, well, we're going to try to bring this to life, and so it's not going to continue the animated story. And now it's just like one seamless transition from animation to live action. It's kind of amazing.
Absolutely. And they
Yeah.
do little things like I see Rosario as Ahsoka. She's doing the thing where she has her hand on her hip and she leans the way Ahsoka would lean in the cartoon. And I'm like, that's so
Yeah.
cool. It
It's
just
it's awesome.
yeah, it really
Yeah,
brings
it's
it to life.
awesome. I love that. Yeah, and I love that they kind of hinted about where they were going by bringing Zeb into live action in a little cameo appearance
Yes.
in Mandalorian, which was awesome and totally
Loved
exactly
it.
how a cameo should work. It's like, oh my god, that's Zeb.
Although I kind
Yeah.
of wish that was in like 4D so we can smell him. Like,
Yes. Well, he smells. He
Yeah.
smells great. Yeah. So it's really exciting. Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This is just a slight tangent, but Zeb
Sure.
was not in the trailers. Is that right?
That's right. He's not in the trailers. And there's some other, there, and I'm glad they're saving stuff for us. I imagine, just like with most of the trailers, that we're watching stuff all from the first episode or something.
Or
You
at least
know?
early on. Yeah. I
Yeah.
got
I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, because um we've seen certain characters sort of the villains attack, and we've seen the confrontation between Hera and the rebel leadership, and a few kind of different versions of the same scene. So I'm excited for what
Right.
we haven't seen. Like we haven't seen Callus,
Right.
uh, right, who was a big part of the story. We've seen Chopper for a second, but we'll see more. Yeah, there's a lot. We haven't seen. I am fully expecting that we'll see. Uh, uh, oh boy, why is my brain going? Rex.
Ah, yeah,
You
that'd
know,
be incredible.
I mean, he and Ahsoka are a primary relationship in
Absolutely.
the entire story, and I love that. If hopefully we'll see him, and they've saved him for us.
For the supporting characters that are kind of minor, I was kind of hoping to see Hondo, but you don't need to, but that would make me happy.
Yeah, no, yeah, Hondo, absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah, and yeah, Go ahead. Sorry.
No, Callus wasn't one that I thought of, but that would be great too. But I also worry he had the coolest sideburns in Star Wars. So how do you do that in live action? I don't know.
You just blue screen them, It's just like, tape them on there with animation.
That's true.
That's true.
Let's do some housekeeping before we move on.
Okay.
Guys, if you like my content, if you like this chat with Matthew, please like and subscribe. The socials are all down there on the screen below. Definitely check out Matthew's Substack because he is a Star Wars genius, as his Chiron says there.
Oh my God.
You can check out his Substack, Octobaby.
Yes, Octobaby.
.substack.com. It is excellent, and I highly recommend subscribing. It's just,
thank you.
I mean, obviously you are a talented writer, but you're also passionate about Star Wars, but not blinded. You are like the perfect amount of positivity for me when it comes to Star Wars.
Well, I explained this ethos on the blog a little bit, or the newsletter. Is I am here to enjoy what I enjoy. I think this stuff is made for us to have fun with.
Yeah,
and I think it's very easy to be sucked into what's wrong with it, and that's social media sort of rewards negativity, and the truth is, like, this is all fun. This is all fun. They're making great things for us. It doesn't mean you have to like blindly praise everything that happens, but like assume good intentions on the parts of the people who are making these nice things for us and enjoy them, and know that it's not automatic that this stuff exists. Like, I never expected to have this much Star Wars in my life when I was a kid.
Oh, not at all.
It's amazing.
Yeah, beyond my wildest expectations.
Yeah,
and
it's
happy,
exciting.
Great time to be alive, eh?
Yeah, exactly. In some ways, hopefully the oceans will stop rising. But there's so much Star Wars. I'm very excited. Yeah. One thing I think about Ahsoka, it's interesting. I was thinking about this today, about how she works as a character.
What do you mean by that?
Well, she's interesting because many of the sort of heroic Star Wars characters that we've come to know are really archetypes. Like Luke is the hero, right? And he doesn't. We have not seen him as much as we've seen Ahsoka, because everything he does is sort of mythic hero status, and it's not a series of little adventures, right? So she's been on so many adventures. She works more like a character, she more like a character than archetype, if that makes sense. She functions more as someone we get to know, who's going through, has relationships, and is making decisions about a lot of little things, like who she meets and how she wants to spend time with people, what she eats, and so she's evolved from literally a baby to Gandalf the White, and so but we've seen all these steps in between, and with some of the other Star Wars characters, you really get sort of the big iconic moments. Leia is a general now, right? And you don't watch every little step in between them unless you're like reading the books or whatever, and even then you just get the big stuff. So I think it's really interesting how much time we've spent with Ahsoka, and how much we've gotten to know her and seen her in every way,
And I wonder how much more we will be spending with her going forward. I was reading this great nerd thread on Reddit, people arguing about how old Ahsoka will be in the series. And they're arguing about a difference of plus or minus 3 years, which I think is
hilarious. My God, my heroes. Oh, yes.
So
may you care so much. That's amazing. I love it.
They're guessing anywhere from 44 to 47 at the start of the Ahsoka series. And the average lifespan of a Togrutan is 82 years old. I don't know where they got that from.
Oh my God.
But for force sensitive Togrutans can live as long as 200.
So wow, midichlorians extend their lives, huh?
That's true, yeah.
Okay, well, I guess Pablo
the whole Mortis stuff.
Yeah.
Because she was infused with the spirit of the daughter. Maybe that extends her life even more. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe by the time this is all over, she'll be 172. But yeah, I mean, one thing that we do know is that she is probably not alive by the time the Rise of Skywalker comes around,
Right.
because she is a voice that
Right.
speaks to Rey. And it doesn't seem super likely that she will be the only living one of those characters. Everybody else is a ghost who
Right.
speaks. Now, obviously, that's not why they made the decision, and there's lots of ways to retcon that if they feel like it. And they'll shoot one scene of her as an old woman going, and then that makes it work. But it does seem like the characters like that are probably gone by then. And it's 30 years even from where we're at, 25 years or no, 40, yeah, 30 years. So it's a long trip between here and there for her.
So you mentioned her role in The Rise of Skywalker. She was one of the voice ghosts, I guess.
Yeah, it's voice
at the
ghosts.
end.
Yeah.
And voiced by the delightful Ashley Eckstein for so many years.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to talk to you about some of the actors we'll be seeing in Ahsoka. Are there any
Mhm.
performances that you're looking forward to for the new characters? I guess
I
new
mean,
to live action.
yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure. The actor who's playing Sabine is I'm really curious about. I've never seen her perform or act before.
Ah,
She's extremely well cast. Has she been in things that you've seen?
I saw her in that movie where Harry Potter has the guns like attached to his fist, Guns Akimbo, it's called.
I have not seen Guns Akimbo.
That is the only thing I've seen her in, and I thought she was great in that.
I didn't know such a thing existed.
So weird.
That's
So
amazing.
weird.
Okay. I mean, I'm excited to see Rosario Dawson because
Of
she's
course.
terrific. I
Yeah.
think that she's really wonderful. Um, it's Lars Mikkelsen who's playing uh, Thrawn.
Yeah.
Right. I will be corrected if I'm wrong, but I mean, he's a terrific actor, and a live action, not animated Thrawn is exciting to me.
Yes. Big time.
Yeah, I think Thrawn is such a character that works in a novel. He's so written. He felt when he first emerged from the novels that he came from, which was the first Timothy Zahn trilogy in the
Mhm.
90s. It felt like a character specifically designed to fit into a book. That he's got lots of detailed thoughts and conversations and interest in things, and so it's hard to translate him into something that's sort of written for a middle grade novel level. And so I think an actor can bring out all of those little nuances of thinking that you can get a little in animation, but thinking is something people do best.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see that. Yeah.
As you mentioned, the Timothy Zahn novels, is that the Heir to the Empire? Is that?
Yeah, Heir to the Empire, Dark Force Rising, and The Last Command were the three Timothy Zahn
Right.
original books.
Right.
Yeah.
So with sci-fi and fantasy, so many things come down to the villain, and I thought Thrawn was a brilliant villain in those books.
Yeah.
Never thought I would see him in an animated series or live action in a million years, but I liked the way he was portrayed in Rebels. How did you feel about that?
I felt good about it. I thought that they found a good way for him to, I mean, what he does well is study his opponents. And I thought
Right.
that they found a great way to sort of translate that into the series. I liked his voice.
Yes.
He looked great. Um, I always feel like, it's very hard to translate the book exactly into animation, and so my what I saw him as a little less action hero-y, or not hero-y, but there's a lot more action with him on the show. That, of course, is because it's animation. Like when he finally confronts Ezra, spoiler alert, he's wrapped up in tentacles, and there's stormtroopers running in the room, and that's very I feel like Thrawn would just be sitting in his chair,
Right.
so but I'm excited. I mean, I think he's a wonderful character, and it's really cool how Dave Filoni seems really focused on like bringing things back into canon.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things you
Yeah,
just mentioned was one of the greatest aspects of Thrawn was how he studied his opponents, sometimes through art, which I thought was a great connection with Sabine's character, who is an artist.
yeah, yeah,
So he got to, I guess, he learned a lot about her from her paintings and her murals and stuff.
yeah. And also, I believe, am I right that it's been a while since I've, there was like a traditional item that belonged to Hera, isn't that right?
Yes, that is
That he
correct.
had, that he used against her, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like a family totem or something like that, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly.
I mean, speaking of actors, I'm excited to see. Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Hera is a great, not only because, I mean, I've always thought she was a terrific actor.
Yeah.
She's a really compelling actor, but the family connection there because she's married to Ewan
Ewan,
McGregor.
yeah.
Yeah, so the idea of them both being, Star Wars characters is a lot of fun. But I'm excited to see how she translates. I mean, Hera's such a wonderful character.
Absolutely. I did a fact check while you were talking, and it is Lars. I
Nailed.
also get my Mickelsons confused and my Sarsgaards. So,
Thank
you
you.
know.
Yes, I get them confused. I'm like, oh, I'm going to get the wrong Mickelson.
Now, I wanted
Yeah.
to ask you about Hera specifically. And are there any voice or any of the live action actors that you think you might have a tough time hearing their voice as opposed to the voices you know
Mm.
so well from the animation?
I mean, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I feel like the the one the individual whose voice is most associated with the character is actually Ashley Eckstein,
Yeah.
who, and so I think we've already sort of gotten past that point. I mean, Rosario Dawson does a beautiful job, and also
Yeah.
she's older, so that the deepening of the voice and the less sort of spunky childlike voices,
It
it
makes
kind of
sense.
works already. It
Yeah.
works, yeah. Um, but and I imagine the same actor who did, I think it's Steve Bloom or whatever, that did
Yes.
Zeb
Yeah.
will probably be Zeb again.
Yeah. He was in the cameo, so that was him.
Oh, okay, that's great. And I'm not sure. Clearly, Ezra's in the show.
Yes.
Uh, and Ezra's voice is very memorable. So I'm curious about this actor because when we see his little holographic image in the
Right.
trailer, uh, I can't, I think it might be the actor's performance, but if we barely see Ezra, they could use, or if he's just a hologram, they could use the voice from the series. I'm just not sure.
Right. But also the point that you brought up with Rosario is that these characters are older now, and Ezra was
Yeah.
still pretty young when he purgled away in Rebels. So
Yes.
his voice probably would sound different at this point
Yeah.
anyway. So
I'm very curious how they are going to handle the Ezra
yes.
story. I mean, that seems
I
like
do
a
want to
huge
ask
deal.
you about that in a little bit, but
Yeah, sure.
for Mary Elizabeth Winstead, for me, I'm hearing Ramona Flowers all the time from
Okay.
Scott Pilgrim. So
Nice. Okay.
I think I might have a hard time reconciling her voice as Hera. Maybe it'll take me 2 episodes or so.
I mean,
Um,
Hera's voice is extremely distinctive, and
yeah,
she does have a very different voice. I She's such a good actor.
absolutely.
I imagine it'll take, but yeah, I could totally see what you mean. Yeah,
But hopefully it is not an issue. Now,
yeah.
getting back to Ezra, as you mentioned, we only saw him briefly in the trailers as a hologram. Do you think he'll be saved for the finale, or will we see Ezra before then? Will the whole gang get back together before the
Yeah,
finale?
I'm really curious about that because we do see Thrawn,
Right.
and
So
they have
logically, yeah.
right. I mean, they were blown wherever they went together, so it seems it would be kind of a narrative stretch to sort of keep Ezra off camera for a long period of time if Thrawn shows up early. But
Right.
a long time has passed, so I'm not sure. I feel like I feel like we'll see Ezra earlier than we expect. This is just my instinct with this is that they like to give kind of like with the end of season one and Mandalorian season 1, the end of the first arc where they show you Grogu as a big surprise. Oh my God, here we go.
Ah,
Um, I could imagine us getting to Ezra on the early side, so that as fans we all go, well, okay, now what?
yeah.
Because there's as opposed to just waiting for him to show up near the end. But I mean, they could save him. I mean, we're all wondering where he is. Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah, what they'll do.
Who do you think he'll be at this point in his life after being blasted off to the outer rims and or what is the territory called where Thrawn's
Oh,
people I forgot.
wild space, or the no, not wild space. It's is it wild space?
It is not.
It's beyond the outer rim. It's
Yeah.
like
There's a name for it though. I totally
there's a
forgot.
name for it
No.
that's not coming to me right now. But yeah, I mean, that's where the Emperor stored
Right.
all of his ships and during Operation Cinder. And
Yes.
yeah. I think I think my guess is, I think the exciting thing about these series is that you can move things forward. One of the things that Star Wars does really well is sort of fill in backstory over and over again. What happened before, explain to you what and with Ezra, we're at the tippy end of his story. So we can see a big transformation. And I think it would be more fun to see him in a significantly different frame of mind
Yeah.
than we did when we let, he always sort of teetered on darkness.
Yes, he
Uh,
did.
so he must, a darker Ezra, a survivor, somebody who's sort of had to make it on his own, would be a pretty interesting character at this point. He's been, and maybe if he was hoping somebody would find him before now, he may have given up on being found at this point.
Right.
We'll see. Yeah.
I was actually reading a theory on comic book resources today that the author is speculating that Ezra has turned to the dark side. It wasn't really well supported, but it's possible. I mean,
yeah, everything is possible. It seems like it would seem surprising to me if Ezra turned to the dark side. It would not seem surprising to me if he was in some part of the galaxy where our rules don't apply in the same way, or our categories don't apply. It seems like Balin and what's her name, Shri or whatever, the new. I'll look them up. I have the internet like everybody else. The two new dark side force wielders who are not Sith and not Jedi. We love that these days. They don't appear to be sort of a part of our known system of characters, So, meaning, they're not Balin Skull and
right.
oh, what's her name? Anyway,
Shin?
so
Is that right?
Shin, that's right. So they seem, like a master and apprentice. They seem like Sith, right? But they're
Right.
not going to be Sith. They're going to be a little different than that. And so I'm curious if Ezra will sort of fall out. He met sort of characters and we've interacted in the Rebels world with characters who were sort of in the middle, right? Who weren't so binary about the Force. So it'd be interesting if he comes into contact with that sort of philosophy a little bit.
I fact checked Dust again. It is the unknown regions.
The unknown regions. Thank you. Yes, unknown to both of our brains in this moment as well.
Well, that's better than what I was going with. Like, is it the Forbidden Zone? I'm like, no. Like,
oh yeah, exactly.
The Forbidden Zone was once a paradise.
Regions, yes. So, but yeah, I've always sort of loved the concept of the unknown regions because it allows you. It's like Deus Ex unknown regions. You can bring things from there and hide things there, and there could be whole universes and galaxies we're not aware of, and it creates a lot of unknown, and as they're called. But it from a story perspective, this is a 40-plus-year-old franchise with a lot of mined territory,
right?
And so anywhere that we can go find things we haven't seen is exciting, I think.
It reminds me of wrestling as parts unknown. Like,
is
that where the Ultimate Warrior is from?
Exactly, hailing from parts
unknown.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Like, how do you get there? Like, do you have to take a lot of transfers?
I think you get it with steroids.
Aha.
Yeah, it takes you
Uh-huh.
right to parts unknown. Yeah, and tassels on your arms.
So you were talking about the two new baddies in this, Balin and
Hmm.
Shin. Obviously we don't know how they're written, but the actor that played Balin died, and I don't know if they had
Yeah, Ray
plans for him
Stevenson.
in season two. I mean, do you?
I was very excited to. I mean, I'm excited to see what he does. He's a wonderful
Yeah,
actor. He's got so much presence.
I
In the
agree.
trailers, he just has that sort of like, "Where have you been all my life? Of course, you should be in Star Wars" presence. Um, I remember going to the theater with my friend Dave to see Punisher Warzone back in the day, which whatever, not good, but he was memorable,
Yeah, for sure.
and he's always been memorable. So it is very sad that he passed away so young, you and I'm excited to see what he does. He's an exciting performer. Um, I'm sort of fascinated by this sort of question of like, okay, I'm not a Jedi, I'm not a Sith, I'm not a this, I'm not a that, because we've had these categories, and
Yeah,
Ahsoka is not a Jedi,
yeah,
although in The Mandalorian, when they find her, they call her the Jedi. That's the name of the episode. So um, yeah, I'm curious. If these characters are not Sith per se,
right.
who are they and where did they come from and where do they get their force training and what why are they aligned with these characters? Are they mercenaries? Are they looking for a particular kind of power? Are they from a culture we're not aware of? There's an
Yeah,
implication that he knew Anakin somehow.
yeah. And then,
Yeah,
am I remembering correctly? Are their lightsabers orange? Balin and Shin?
yeah, they're sort of they're a reddish orange. They seem, at first glance, they seem pretty red, and then, if you watch the trailer 100,000 times, like we have,
Yeah.
you're like, they're kind of orange. Yeah, and I wonder if that's, an intentional way of sort of making them their own thing.
Right.
Um, but yeah, they seem to just attack a alliance or a New Republic ship at some point, Darth Vader style. So it'll be an interesting. We know that Shin and Sabine have a lightsaber confrontation. We know
Yeah.
Balin and Ahsoka fight at some point. How that all kind of pieces together is really hard to say at this point.
So I was wondering if the orange or that reddish orange signifies anything, kind of like how Ahsoka's white lightsabers were meant to signify that she is not a Jedi and that she's kind of her own
Her
deal.
own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, and I isn't, a red lightsaber is intended to show someone has sort of bled a kyber crystal. It's like
Right.
you corrupted and harmed it and caused it to glow red. So um so yeah, I'm not sure what the orange signifies. And I think what's always sort of fun about Star Wars lore and the way it works is that you'll get a design choice that's intended to be simply distinctive, right?
Right.
And then get five explanations in books about it, because somebody's job is to explain it to us, And I wonder
Exactly.
if we'll get an explanation in the show or if it'll just be, oh, here come bad guys, they're in black.
And a great example of that is Mace Windu's purple lightsaber, which was chosen because Sam Jackson wanted a purple lightsaber. And
That's right. He just wanted a purple lightsaber, basically. And who says no to Sam Jackson?
yeah. And they later
So,
wrote the lore after of what the purple means. And I'm like, that's
yeah,
pretty cool.
exactly. I mean, that's what I think they do, and I got no problem with that. I think that's why I don't kind of obsess over the details of Star Wars sometimes. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm interested in them from a story perspective, like what are they supposed to tell us in the show? But from the details perspective, sometimes Star Wars feels like the details are written in after.
Yeah. Yeah.
For fun, not because if you don't know how wise Ray's lightsaber is yellow, you're gonna miss something.
And I'm totally
Um,
cool with that style of storytelling and
Me
explanation.
too. I've always liked that. Because I think it allows you to focus on like the important stuff, which is like how people are overcoming their obstacles, how they're growing as people, um, how they are learning about greed and responsibility
Right.
and loving one another and friendship and all these things that are real Star Wars themes. Um, and I'm really interested in this sort of idea that Sabine and Ahsoka are a master and apprentice.
That surprised me. I did not expect her to have more Jedi training. Simply because when she was training with the dark saber in Rebels, she wasn't great
Yeah,
at it. so,
right.
so I
Yeah,
was,
it didn't seem like her natural path to me.
yeah,
Um, but here we are, right?
yeah,
And I thought a couple of things about that, which was like, it's funny in Secret Invasion. May it rest in peace. Hey, I'm positive about a lot of things. I defend everything. I thought Secret Invasion wasn't so great, but and I was very excited about that story because I love that story in the comics.
ah,
But what I thought was interesting about it was the premise is that our heroes had failed.
yeah,
That in Captain Marvel and in all the stories leading up relating to the Skrulls, Nick Fury had promised to find them someplace to live. And in Secret Invasion, it turns out he couldn't.
right,
Right. And so this seems similar. It feels like they wanted to find Ezra years
right,
ago
right.
and didn't. Somehow it didn't work. And so here they are again, still looking for Thrawn, still trying to find Ezra. And if they had a relationship before, they don't have it anymore. So there's a series of there's something that
Yeah,
happened
there's
that
a
didn't
gap
work.
there. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So they're overcoming their own personal failings in some way.
yeah.
Not just we can't find him, but we tried and we couldn't.
And I think it looks like the series, and I might be projecting here. It looks like it covers that gap because when we see Sabine at the end of Rebel, she has the short hair. But when we see some of her clips in the trailer, she has the long hair. They show her cutting it off, and they show
Right.
Ahsoka coming to meet her in Lothal, where the mural is and everything, and they have
Right.
that conversation. So maybe they kind of fill in that gap. So
Yeah, because at the end of Rebels, she's cut her all of her hair off.
yeah,
So here's the process. She's got a bob, and then she cuts all her hair off, and then her hair grows out again, and then she cuts it again. So they do a lot of work on this woman's hair. You know, Sabine's hair is a whole art department unto itself.
it
And
is.
and yeah, and it's been like several different versions of colors, and it's yeah. So, but yeah, it does seem like they're gonna cut off her mane so that she can be tough again or something. But yeah, it's interesting how much work has been done to Sabine's hair.
It's funny. One of her aspects in her character in Guns Akimbo is that she had like Technicolor hair that was very vibrant and multicolored, and I'm like, that's perfect for
Yeah,
Sabine. Good choice in Natasha
there
there.
you go. I also think it does feel like she, just from the trailers alone, and we'll see. I know the show's called Ahsoka, but Sabine's story seems to be pretty central here. You
Yeah,
know, I mean, it's one of the reasons, as you say, it feels like Rebel season 5 because Ahsoka does not seem like the only character on a journey here.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we'll see. Yeah.
One of the characters that I was surprised to see in the trailers was Morgan Elsbeth, who was introduced in The Mandalorian. I thought when they wrapped up that episode that she was dead,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
here she is, and I love that
So
actor too. So
yeah, isn't she so is she Bruce Lee's daughter or something like that?
her
Somebody
father
correct.
trained with Bruce Lee.
Trained with Bruce Lee.
Yeah,
Okay, so she's in this sort of like
yeah,
lineage.
yes,
And so, yeah, sorry. But I mean, she was memorable in the show, and I like the tie-in. I did think, okay, that's a one and done character. It didn't occur to
same.
me that she would carry through. But that's a little how I felt about, uh, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I mean, that whole episode, the Jedi episode, felt like just a way to introduce Ahsoka. It didn't feel like that whole story was going to go beyond where it was, right? And so but she was asked where Thrawn is, like as
Yes,
if she knew. And
yes,
so it does make sense to bring her forward. And and the idea that Thrawn has all these agents, which was also tied into the end of Mandalorian. They had that
Right.
incredible, Imperial Council episode with the Imperial Remnant that introduced all sorts of wonderful tie-ins to
Yeah.
a variety of parts of the storyline. So, including Thrawn. So, yeah,
And
he's out there.
Hux is, I guess that's his dad or something. Or
Yeah, and it's actually played by Brendan Gleeson's brother.
right.
So, or Donald Gleeson's brother. So,
Right.
uh,
Brendan Gleeson's a very different actor.
You're right. Yeah. But Donald Gleeson's brother plays his father in Mandalorian, and I love that, and I love that it tied their story to the sequel trilogy and brought up what's going on with Thrawn and dealt with what was going on right there in the storyline in front of us. It was like a wonderful mix of like, no, all of this is happening at once, and that's always a lot of fun.
And as another nerdy tie-in, Domhnall Gleeson and Brendan Gleeson are both Harry Potter actors as well.
Oh my God, they're everywhere.
Yes. Just like your Mickelsons and your Sarsgaards.
Yes, they're Gleesons and all these family. This is the problem with all these Nepo babies and Nepo families and all the whatever. Hundreds of last names to remember. But yeah, I mean, I think it's exciting to see all these tie-ins and stories. And I am curious now because they did announce that Dave Filoni is going to bring it all into one big movie.
Right.
You do wonder how complete the thought of Ahsoka will be by the end of the series, or if they're taking all of these stories and just sort of setting up a big showdown with Thrawn, which would make sense.
And will we see
like the big bad guy?
Will we have another season of Ahsoka before that? I mean, there's a lot to do before the movie comes. So
yeah, and they've got Skeleton Crew coming.
Yes.
Which I don't know how that ties into anything else. But that's, I mean, all they've got now is Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew. They could do a Mando season 4, but nothing's been announced,
right?
And everyone's on strike, so
well, there's no one to do it at the moment. So,
exactly. Yeah. So it might be a minute, but I mean, if you do Ahsoka the right way, like if you use the season to lead into a movie, because if Thrawn's the villain, you don't need that much more story to have him threaten the Republic.
Right.
He seems like the who is coming to threaten the New Republic, essentially.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a thought.
Now, taking a macro jump back for Disney Plus, what would you say is the best Star Wars series in your opinion, quality wise? Not your favorite, but
yeah. They're all my favorite. And I think I tend to be a little like. I can tend to look at things, or are they succeeding on their own merits, right? Because everything has its own sort of goals. Like I have friends who loved Andor, for example, because they had this feeling that it was sort of a higher quality show, that it was written more in a more sophisticated traditional science fiction way, right? And it was written in a more traditional science fiction way, in a more writerly way. But it also was written in a way that's super different than Star Wars traditionally.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like comparing. It almost created this apples and oranges comparison, right? So because is it a better show than Mandalorian season 2? I don't know. Season 2 ended with Luke Skywalker in saving Baby Yoda and us all crying in our beer. So
yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I've really enjoyed them all. I think of the ones that I loved, most, I love season 2 of Mandalorian, especially. I felt like it really expanded the series and ended in a note where I literally went, holy shit, I can't believe they're doing this. What I really liked too is the whole series of Boba Fett had great stuff and sort of like some kind of lulls for me. But the final episode of Boba Fett is just what you get when you take all the toys in the toy box and drop them onto your play set. and just mash them together. And there's something so joyful and fun about that. It just was like, okay, they just are like, we're going to throw a robot and a rancor. Why not? And that
That's
was
a
really fun.
great way to think about it. I never thought about
Yeah.
it like that before, but you're
It's just what it
completely
felt like.
right.
It felt like somebody said, what do you want to do? He's like, well, I'd like all these guys to shoot all these guys, and that had a real joyful feel to it. And that's always my favorite part, when it feels like they're just having a ball.
I think I feel similarly to you. I think
Yeah.
my personal favorite is probably Mandalorian season 2, but objectively, I think Andor is a slight bit above that.
Mm-hmm.
So
What did you love about Andor? I'm curious.
I think part of it is because I had no expectations at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a pretty clean slate going into it. No baggage, no fanboyism.
Yeah.
So it's that certain point of view thing, but it was gripping. It was very surprising because I didn't know what to expect
Yeah.
from an Andor series.
Yeah. And they have such, I love, there are certain pieces of it that just play out like a little play,
Ah,
like the Karns, like Cyril and his mother
okay.
are just like shot like little plays, and she's like, pouring, he's having his breakfast and his mother's disappointed in him. And I'm like, this is hilarious. you know, or, there's just so many things that felt operatic and cool. And then other things I felt were a little, sci-fi, but it was really surprising, very different. And it does feel like if you have this much room to play, right? The movies have such weight that if you have the opportunity to sort of say, yeah, let's shake it up, let's just try something different.
Right.
Might as well, if you have all this time and space on Disney Plus, to take a risk, try something new.
So with that in mind, looking at the other series, where do you expect Ahsoka to fit in? Do you think it'll be among the best? Do you think it'll be just okay? Or is there? I mean, I can't say
Yeah,
because I'm too fanboyed out for this. I'm such a big
yeah,
Ahsoka and Rebels fan that I'm
yeah.
gonna love
No,
it no matter
I,
what.
I mean, it looks amazing, and I'm very excited for it for a couple of reasons. And one, like I'm sure it's going to be way top of the list. I mean, I don't really list them because I just like them all. But
Yeah,
one thing that I will say is that she's a character that has we've waited for,
yeah,
you know, and that's one thing I have always liked in the feeling of Star Wars, is that there's a kind of a scarcity to Star Wars most of the time. You don't get a lot of it. Lately that's different, but it was once years and years between lots of things. And getting an Ahsoka series is something that is a long time coming. So there's something sort of cathartic about, like, there it is, finally she's got her own series. So that feels good. I love the way that it looks visually. Obviously, I mean, Dave Filoni's way of shooting live action so far feels very much like a guy who lives in storyboard world. Like he really, there's definitely, like, everything has a beautiful paint, like, well composed shot.
right.
And to me, and it's got a great story. We already know that we're invested in the results of what happens. So to me, the real question will be how. First of all, I'm always interested in the writing,
Yeah,
and I did write a little bit about how so far the writing in the trailers is very, like, unvarnished and flat. It's like something dark is coming, something has changed.
right.
I want to, and Star Wars has sort of fun, bubbly writing sometimes, and I want to see that. And I also think, I'm just curious what will surprise me about the story.
Yeah,
What's going to happen I don't expect, because sometimes that's the best part, is like, oh my god, really, that's what they're going to do. And that's a great feeling
it could be
to me.
Dark Ezra. Who knows?
Who knows? It could be Dark Ezra. I mean, there are people who really resist what they don't expect. They get something they didn't plan on, and they go like, oh, they ruined it, or they jumped the shark, or they whatever. But I love it when I'm not sure what's going to happen next. I love it when I'm like, wait a second, I didn't expect them to do that with Ezra. Or, wow, they killed off, this person in the second episode, for real. Like, I love it when they take big swings, big risks. So I'm curious how they'll do that.
I think the only thing that would disappoint me is if I don't see Chopper kill someone. Like that's what
So explain to me why you want this robot to murder someone.
because he's such an angry. I mean, he's so different from R2 in that
Yeah,
R2 can be snippy, but he's generally agreeable and helpful.
that's true.
Whereas Chopper's kind of just like this little shit, but he's so lovable. But
Yeah, he's a grumpy, cantankerous little
yeah,
frick. I mean, the funny thing is too that R2 has quite the body count. He's killed a lot of robots, you know. Yeah,
yes,
and in Revenge of the Sith, there's that whole scene where he gets caught by two super battle droids and just basically wastes them
yeah.
and then rolls away. You know, he just like sets them on fire. Like R2 just he like mows them down like a serial killer. And so I was like, whoa, okay. So, but yeah, Chopper definitely seems like somebody who would pull the switch and let everybody drop to space.
If you can have one astromech companion, would it be Chopper or R2? Who do you think would be more
Oh, I
useful?
gotta. I'm classic. Got to go with R2. I mean, who's a
Oh,
better friend? Who's a better friend than R2? Sounds like you
that's
prefer
true.
Chopper. Yeah.
I think Chopper would help me out if I were in trouble. I think he would be more
It's true.
useful there.
R2 might just roll away and curse at you like he does C3PO.
Yeah, that could happen, but it's just Chopper's capacity for violence is higher. I don't
It's true. He does.
so,
He does seem like he's had it up to here with this world. So, yeah, he's. I mean, that's the fun thing. You know, they always bring in a droid companion. There's always somebody for every series, and uh, yeah, you know, like Lola in Obi-Wan, or you
yeah,
know, and somebody to buy. But but I love, you know, Chopper. Just he's just got a lot of personality. He's just got, you
absolutely.
know, he just feels like a whole character.
Mm,
R2's around at this point. That's the other thing I think about with this
oh,
series
there's a tag
is,
team for you. That would be
well,
cool.
that's the other weird thing about those where they are in the storyline, right?
Yeah.
Because Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, C3PO, R2, they're all out there. This
Yeah.
is only 5 years after Return of the Jedi. So, um, or at least that's how long Mandalorian was, right? So it's only a couple years after that.
Yeah.
So they're out there. And whether or not any of these characters will make an appearance,
Oh.
um, I think is an open question. You know, they do like to bring in their little cameos. They didn't do a lot of it with Mandalorian season three, but they already had so many things going
Yeah.
on. I understood. But, you know, and now with the technology they use pretty liberally, um, who knows who could show up?
Very true.
Yeah.
Now, whether it's a cameo or a small character from Rebels, is there something that is unlikely, but you're wishing for to happen in Ahsoka?
Well, I don't know how unlikely it is, but it does feel like we need to see a wolf.
Very
You
cool.
know, it just seemed like there needs to be some kind of wolf. Um, so, you know, if they do any flashbacks, are we going to see a live action Caleb?
Ooh, that would
You
be
know,
cool.
Caleb Doom,
Yeah.
or Kanan Jarrus, or whatever he's
Yes.
however people call him, Kanan Caleb. Are we going to see him? Are we going to see? So that doesn't seem likely, but
Right. But that would be
it would
awesome.
be it would be cool. Yeah,
What does
and I
Freddie
do.
what does Freddie Prinze look like these days? Would he be age appropriate for Kanan? I don't know. I haven't seen him in a
I
long
mean, the last interview I saw with him was like, "I'm not getting anywhere near it. I'm done."
Okay.
You know, but we'll all say that, you know, until somebody rolls a, a truckload of Disney money up to their door and drops it on their door, and then they're like, "Okay, I'll put on the outfit." So, so yeah, so Kanan. Uh, I'm also curious if, you know, besides those cameos, um, I'm really interested to see like how much, uh, yeah, how this universe interacts with where they're at, because it seems like they're going off into the unknown, but the storyline point is like Imperial Remnant, New Republic sort of era.
Right.
And we already know we're going to see Mon Mothma, but who else may make an appearance from that time?
Right.
Um, like, are we going to see? I mean, we saw Lando in Rebels, we saw Leia in Rebels. Um, so who knows? Yeah, I'm sort of curious to see how they'll pluck from the existing universe, or if, in an effort to tie it all together, we'll see, Mandalorian, we'll see Boba Fett. I mean, wouldn't we like to see Rex meet Boba Fett?
Now, talking about getting all your toys out and playing with
Yeah,
them, I mean,
but right now, Boba Fett is alive, played
that's
by that
true.
actor. He's
Yeah,
out there in the world. He's never met Rex, who's
right,
also apparently still alive.
right.
So uh, we've never seen Boba Fett meet like a clone from years ago who looks like his dad. Like any of that could happen. I mean, there's room for it.
That'd
So
be awesome.
it's not likely, but it's not impossible.
So you think on a much grander and more complex scale than I do. I just wanted like 3 minutes of Chopper and AP5 like going off on each other. Like that
Nice.
duo always cracks me up. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think it'll be cool to see live action Lothal for a while too. I mean,
yeah,
it was such the point of the series, to save
yeah.
Lothal essentially. And there are some characters from Lothal who are could be brought into live action. So yeah, I'm curious to see what they decide to show us.
I'm excited too. I can't wait for this series. And I'm so thankful that we got to talk about Ahsoka, but just catch up in general. It is always good to see you.
It's great to see you too.
Now let's
It's a
get
lot of
out of
fun.
here
Thanks for having me on. Yes.
on some housekeeping. Let me turn off my little banner there. So, guys, again, please like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. It really helps out. And definitely subscribe to Matthew's Substack. It is phenomenal. You will be entertained. You will be thinking about things, aspects of Star Wars that you probably haven't thought about. And it will be worth your time for sure.
Thank you.
And as always, thanks for watching RPAD TV 3000. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.